We're still in Rye.
But where are we now, Bill?
Well, we are on what was known as Brackett Lane or Brackett Road in Rye, and we are visiting the site of a massacre that occurred on September 29th, 1691. And there was a small colony here of white settlers. It was then called Sandy Beach. It is now Wallace Sands, which is right over there, and anybody that knows the beaches of New Hampshire is certainly familiar with Wallace Sands. And the marsh over here behind us, or to my right, is local people still remember it and call it Massacre Marsh. And that is because on September 29th in 1691, the local Native Americans launched an attack upon the village or the colony of Sandy Beach. And it's a remarkable feat, and it's worthy of any military action taken today.
So how did they do it?
They gathered on Kittery Point, crossed the Piscataqua in open canoes, which anybody that knows anything about Picasso will tell you that that's some of the worst currents in the world. And then they bypassed Odeon Point, which was then Panaway Plantation. And there was a garrison there, a garrison house. They snuck past that and they landed on what is now Wallace Sands. They crossed this marsh and they surprised the party people here who were gathering saltwater hay. And they fell upon them and they massacred the entire group. And then they went up the road and they proceeded to burn a couple of farms, kill a few more residents, and some of those who were found in the ashes of their own home. And then they took a few people captured, and they were able to return. They had intended, I think, to attack the village of Hampton, but the word went out, and there were a gathering of colonial militia to repel any attack that happened there. At least that's one story. So they didn't. They returned back to Kittery and obviously took their captives back to Canada, where they were undoubtedly ransomed. And yes, one of them was ransomed off and did married a Frenchman and lived out her life in Canada.
Right behind us, I can see some stones. So were they buried right here?
Right where they fell, although that seems to be that they were proper burials because they are headstones and there are footstones. So they were buried very properly, and there's headstones all along right in through here. And basically where they fell, where they were engaged in the farming operation, the haying operation. If you come here, it's kind of hard to find, although there is a brand new, very nice interpretive marker put out by the town of Rye. And it is on Brackett Road. It's not too hard to find. What we do is usually take Marsh Road right off of Wallace Sands and just follow Brackett Road right, and you'll come to it'll be on your left. But you do have to look because it's sets in the woods. You can see we're in the woods.
And it's like I said before, my family and I used to vacation in the fall almost every year for a number of years right over there on Wallace Sands. And I used to look across this and never knew what was here.
There's another story that I had never heard of until we started to do the research for the book.
Yeah.
One interesting little tidbit about this, there were 21 colonists that were killed here, and as I said, a few more were taken prisoners. One interesting victim was a Mrs. Rand, and on the day, she was actually killed in her own home, and on the day, she was blind, and she was given to premonitions. So on the day of the massacre, she told her husband not to leave. It probably wouldn't have done him any good, but he did, stubborn old man.
Yeah.
He took off, and of course, she ended up being right in the middle of the massacre. And then later on, she fell victim too. Yes. Like I said, one of the captives was taken to Quebec, and where she was brought up and married a Frenchman. She was able to return to Rye and where she had inherited some of the property that was left to us, and she secured a settlement with the town and got her money. So
yeah. Well,
good for her.
Well, I mean, again, I really, I mean, when I come here, and this is the second time we've been here, I think you've been here more than that, but I can almost see these people working here, and then, you know, suddenly they're attacked. And I mean, unfortunately, from both sides, this was a difficult time.
Absolutely.
And but these were people who are trying to make a living here, and suddenly, no idea. I mean, you know, I'm sure when they woke up that morning, outside of perhaps the warning from the blind lady, they had no idea what was going to happen. So again, I would say to all of 21, you said, people here.
You know, just a little side note. And all the time that we've visited these cemeteries and we've written about these cemeteries, we have visited a couple of cemeteries that are reputed to be haunted.
Yeah.
And this is one. And we've never set out to be ghost hunters, and we don't claim that. And we've only had one little experience, which we'll cover later in another video. But we've never really had an experience.
No.
But I think what you just said, when I come here, I have that sense of dread of the, you know, the horror that happened that morning.
Yeah.
And you have to realize the atrocities that had happened on both sides. Certainly the Native Americans had been more than abused and treated illy by the colonists that came here. And obviously they set out for revenge. So, you know, you can certainly, what would you do in that case if it was your land? So you have to look at that and respect that. But
you can see both sides.
Yeah, but you know, I still, it's a very quiet place. Again, it's a little bit of hidden New Hampshire history that's well worth trying to find.
Yeah.
And if you got kids and you bring them here and you want to teach them a little bit of history and give them the sense of what it was like to have lived here as a colonist, it's well worth it. Well worth it. And yes, as you started to say, you truly hope that they do rest in peace here.
Yeah.
Found a way home.
I just find it hard not to imagine, say, 21 people that we know very well, does it say. We all decided to get together to work on something that day, and this is how it ended up. But to go back, yes, please, rest in peace.